Revealed. How a humble maid transformed a millionaire's life after 20 doctors failed him. Sarah stared at the pristine marble floors stretching before her, her breath casting fleeting clouds in the cool air. The grand mansion loomed around her, a testament to wealth and success that felt like a world away from her small, humble apartment. Each day was etched with a rhythm of meticulous cleaning, but beneath that dutiful gaze resided an internal tempest. Unraveling bills spiked dread in her heart. Her mother's ailing health hovered over Sarah like a specter. Would she be able to pay another doctor's visit? Each wiped surface felt like another layer of varnish sealing in her mounting anxieties about the future. The sounds of laughter from the adjacent room whispered remnants of cherished memories, each chuckle conjuring images of better days. If only her mother could dance again without the pain that shadowed even her brightest moments. Would the mounting debt ever relent? She took a deep breath as uncertainty loomed only to be interrupted by the faint shuffle of shoes passing in the hallway. The unmistakable echo of Josh, the millionaire owner haunted by his own shadows. His reclusiveness hung heavy in the air, thick as the dust she chased away. With each day, Sarah masked her own fears to serve the invisible man behind those gilded doors. He was tethered to wealth yet shackled by illness, glaring contradictions that gnawed at her. Discomfort quivered in Sarah's chest, igniting an uncharted path. What if she could help him? The notion felt reckless. Her instinct screamed for separation, yet compassion took root, an ember swelling within her. What power could a poorly educated maid possess? She scolded herself, wrestling pride with hope, all while her heart raced at the idea of transgressing class lines. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. But as days slipped by, the dread of even approaching him twisted in the pit of her stomach. To dare step into the mansion's upper echelons, to speak her truth. That would require a new level of courage. Every thought of him pulled her deeper into reveries of possibility. What if her suggestions could pierce through his cloud of anguish? Would he accept an offering from someone whom society deemed inconsequential? Sarah's hands trembled around the delicate vase as she hovered between duty and desperation. The weight of her mother's bills sidestepped into her thoughts, tinging every interaction with urgency. One day she would find courage. One day she would confront him, a small voice amidst loud silence of self-doubt that whispered she could be the one to make a difference. With each approach to Josh's quarters, the tension escalated like a coiled serpent ready to strike. An encounter loomed, filled with unspoken words that could rupture walls built upon pride. This fragile dance between an ill-begotten millionaire and a determined maid sat looming, each tugging at the threads of fate, as two lives prepared to collide amidst daunting fears. Would this moment reshape not just their lives, but perhaps adjust the lens through which they viewed the world? Desperation swirled as the moment drew near, leaving both Sarah and Josh teetering on the brink of a confrontation that held the potential to change everything they thought they knew about each other and their place within the unequal tapestry of life. With her heart pounding and palms slick with sweat, Sarah fought against the pull of her own anxiety as she approached the closed door of Josh's study. Each step felt weighted, like wading through molasses, the air thick with unspoken potential. She paused, inhaling deeply to gather resolve. What if the confrontation unraveled everything? But the image of her mother's weak smile, the way pain twisted her features, spurred her forward. She was not just fighting for herself anymore. The quiet creak of the door felt like a shattering glass in the silence, announcing her presence. Josh sat hunched over his desk, deep in the pages of a report that seemed framed by shadows. He didn't look up at first, and frustration surged within Sarah. Hadn't he spent enough time hiding from the world? Tentatively, she stepped further into the room, her voice squeaky yet determined. Mr. Parker? At the sound of her voice, Josh lifted his gaze, surprise briefly flickering across his features. His eyes, usually clouded with disappointments, froze on her, narrowing as if trying to place her in the labyrinth of his mind. "What is it?" he asked, his tone curt and almost defensive. The chill in his voice should have deterred her, but it ignited something within. I wanted to talk. About what you're going through," she stammered, her confidence ebbing in the face of his reserved demeanor. Yet, something shifted in his expression, just a hint of vulnerability peeking through his facade. He leaned back in his chair, crossing his arms. "And you think you can help me? What could you possibly offer that 20 doctors couldn't?" Her breath caught, but she pressed forward, amplifying the determination that had been brewing. "Maybe it's not just about medicine. Maybe you need someone who can understand what it feels like to fight each day against something bigger than yourself." His silence stretched between them, her words hanging in the air. Sarah's heart raced with the pulse of reality. She had officially crossed into his world, bearing her soul to a stranger cloaked in riches. "It's easy for you to suggest that," he finally replied, his voice low. "You don't understand the loss that comes from being trapped in your own body, constant physical pain." She took a breath, drawing on the empathy that simmered just beneath her skin. "I know pain. My mother is sick. Every day is a struggle, a battle for normalcy. But I also believe there are ways to break free from that darkness, even if they seem small." Josh's eyes softened slightly. Perhaps it was the unexpected acknowledgement of shared suffering that sparked something within him, the same ember she felt igniting in herself. The tension crackled, and for a moment, the curtain of wealth and status started to lift. As the minutes turned into a conversation, Sarah began to voice ideas for alternative therapies, healthy routines, and a structured regimen that could promote a sense of control over his afflictions. The more she spoke, the more she sensed a meandering path of possibility unfolding, not just for him, but for herself too. This exchange opened her eyes to latent strengths she had never explored. She wasn't merely a maid, she was an advocate, someone capable of provoking change. Lingering shadows faded, illuminating a clearer view of her own desires and aspirations. But just as she began to feel a flicker of hope, Josh's skepticism returned, knitting worry across his brow. "You really think that this will make a difference?" A moment's silence settled as her uncertainty resurfaced, threatening to crush the light she had unveiled. But there was no turning back. She had crossed a line, and now she needed to own the decisions made on this precarious path. "Yes, I do," she asserted, though her voice trembled with the weight of her sincerity. As Josh considered her words, hesitation hung palpably between them. Would this small act of bravery lead to a breakthrough or an unwavering rejection? As Sarah stood there, poised at the threshold of possibility, the implications of her boldness loomed larger than either of them could grasp. Old scars from the battle against despair morphed into the vivid colors of newfound hope. But would this fleeting moment be enough for them both to step beyond their fears? The silence that followed seemed to throb, bearing down with unanswered questions, leading Sarah to contemplate deeper issues. It was no longer just about health or wealth. It was about trust, connection, and the human spirit rising from despair. Today's decisions would inevitably shape tomorrow's battles. Would Josh heed her call, or would he retreat into the fortress of his isolation? The clash of futures hung tantalizingly close, leaving Sarah with one pressing question. Would their fragile truce unravel, or could they kindle a partnership that promised to redefine their lives? The charged atmosphere in the study seemed to twist time, stretching seconds into what felt like an eternity. Sarah held her breath, feeling the anticipation crackle like static electricity in the air. Josh's gaze flickered away as if she had momentarily shattered his armor. It was a crack, a glimmer of something that hinted at connection, but she could not yet discern what lay beyond. "Let me think about it," he replied, finally breaking the silence that hovered over them. Sarah watched as his brow furrowed, his mind evidently wrestling with the weight of her words. It was an opening, albeit a slight one. "I know you've been through so much. she said softly, hoping her empathetic tone would not provoke him. But maybe starting small could help. Just consider one change. What do you have to lose? Josh shifted in his chair, and she noted the way his shoulders tightened. The defenses he built around himself were years in the making, a fortress against vulnerability. As he contemplated her offer, Sarah felt an unfamiliar resolve swell within her. She wasn't just encouraging a conversation. She was asserting her right to be heard and to impact a life beyond her own. "I just don't want to get my hopes up," he finally murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. "Hope is fragile," Sarah countered, stepping closer, emboldened by something shifting in the inside of her. "But it can also be a powerful force. Look at me. I'm merely a maid. I should be invisible in this world, yet here I am, fighting for something I believe in." That statement hung in the air, its resonance profound. The truth was, Sarah had long felt overshadowed by her circumstances, defined solely by her role in others' lives. But in that moment, she was starkly aware of her worth. Her experiences, however humble, had shaped her, granting her insight she once dismissed as merely the echoes of a hard life. "I don't know how you managed to carry all this," Josh said, studying her in a way that made her cheeks flush. "Most people wouldn't dare to reach out." "I have a choice," she replied, feeling the honesty surge up from deep within her. "Every day is a choice. I choose to fight for my mother, and maybe in this fight, I can help you too." For an instant, she thought she saw a flicker of understanding brush against his face, a shared resolve to face the darkness of despair. Yet doubt still flickered in his eyes like a candle in a storm. "People don't change overnight, Sarah," he said slowly, still processing her proposal. "No, they don't. But every small step counts," she asserted, feeling herself gain momentum. "That's how things begin. You want to reclaim your life, don't you?" Her words pierced through the layers of his guarded persona. For a fleeting moment, Josh looked captivated, the turmoil within him battling against the fear of what lay ahead. They were at the edge of something enormous, a partnership that could redefine both their lives. Yet, it was still an unsteady precariousness, one that could easily tip over if he recoiled into the shadows. "What do you have in mind?" he asked, the challenge igniting a flicker of determination in her. So she began outlining a strategy: light stretching exercises to spark flexibility, mindfulness practices to ease the burden of his thoughts, nutrition choices to bolster his energy. As she spoke with passion, each idea becoming a stepping stone towards hope, Sarah began to feel the contours of her own ambitions crystallizing clearer than they ever had. With every nod from Josh, she sensed their connection strengthening. But she also grappled with the uncertainty of what this growing alliance meant. Could she really guide him through the maze of his pain, or was she merely laying her own desires onto him? Just then the tension in the room shifted. She could feel the stakes mount higher, a palpable challenge filling the air. Josh's expression hardened momentarily, as if wrestling with the decision that could alter both of their realities. "I have to admit," he started, his voice barely a whisper, "it scares me. What if I fail again?" Sarah felt the sharp pang of familiar fear, a nearly suffocating sensation within her. The implications of failure loomed heavily, both for her mother and for Josh. They were each standing at a cusp, peering into a future that held unpredictable outcomes. "Then we figure it out together," she addressed, grappling with her own doubts while desperately attempting to instill courage in him. "What's life without the possibility of change?" As silence followed her declaration, the decision loomed between them, heavy with potential energy, a single choice carrying immense weight. Would Josh embrace the unknown and partner with her in this fight, or would he retreat back into the walls he'd built around himself? With their eyes locked, the question hung suspended, the air thick with promise and fear, teasing the edges of what was to be revealed. Sarah steadied herself, prepared for whatever might come next, knowing that their fates were intertwined in ways she had not yet dared to envision. A door had opened. Now, would either of them dare to step through? The tension in the air was palpable, crackling with the weight of unsaid words and unchosen paths. Sarah's heart pounded as she awaited Josh's response, feeling an unsettling mix of hope and dread. Silence had a way of amplifying uncertainty, stretching it out like a taut cable ready to snap. "Okay," he finally breathed, and Sarah felt the breath leave her lungs. "Let's give it a shot, but I'm not quite sure how or where to start." It was the affirmation she sought, yet she could sense the hesitance woven into his agreement. Her mind raced through the possibilities of their first steps together, imagining the small transformations they could undertake, each one a building block to reshape both their lives. "Let's begin with the basics then," she suggested, her voice gaining momentum. "A simple morning routine. We can start with light stretches. It opens the body and mind, helping you awaken to the day with purpose. I'll show you how to do it right." He nodded, still wearing that expression of trepidation that tugged at her heart. Together, they walked over to a small space near the window where the first rays of sunlight scattered through, casting warmth over the cool floor. She demonstrated an easy stretch, turning her head from side to side, arms reaching out before her, the fluidity of her movement reflecting her burgeoning confidence. "Just like this," she said, pausing to catch his gaze. "It's about engaging with your body, becoming aware of yourself again." Josh hesitated for a moment before mirroring her actions, his movements stilted. Sarah's heartbeat quickened, encouraging him as she offered gentle reminders. "Breathe in, breathe out." She could see the rigidity in his posture, the reluctance etched into the lines of his face. How could she help him unlock the potential shackled within? Although he struggled, he persevered, and that spark of determination she had sensed earlier began to flicker back to life. Each stretch fascinated her. It was more than physical. It was a breakthrough in their connection. They were two souls reaching toward something greater, leaving shards of uncertainty behind. "See?" Sarah smiled, feeling a surge of triumph within her. "It's not just exercise. It's learning to reconnect with yourself, one movement at a time." He transitioned to a simple standing pose, but she noticed how his brow furrowed with concentration. The intensity of his struggle resonated deeply within her. His desire to reclaim his life mirrored her own drive to fight for her mother. Sarah understood intimately what it meant to face demons, to step daringly into the light after hiding for so long. "What's next?" he asked, a spark of curiosity creeping into his tone, breaking down his defenses little by little. "Mindfulness," she replied, drawing him deeper into the experience with each word. "We'll spend 5 minutes focusing only on your breath. It'll help clear your mind and alleviate some of the weight you carry." As they settled into the exercise, the air around them transformed. Silence filled the room, punctuated only by their synchronized inhales and exhales. Sarah observed the gradual softening of Josh's features, witnessing a subtle release of tension. It was as if they were both exhaling the fears and doubts that had held them captive. She could sense a slow but steady shift happening, an unearthing of possibilities. After their session, they sat in the lingering stillness, the sunbeams warming their skin. Josh finally appeared less like a lost shadow and more like a man in the making. "I didn't expect it to feel this way," he confessed, his voice more stable. "It's just the beginning," Sarah replied, aware of the flicker of determination sparking to life within her own spirit, encouraged by their shared victory over doubt. "But we can't stop here. You deserve to experience so much more." The prospect of pushing forward fueled her excitement, but it also raised the stakes. If Josh was daring to face these challenges, she, too, had to confront her own fears, the fear of failure, the fear of hope fading once again. "Sarah." He hesitated, shifting his gaze, a new vulnerability emerging. "What if I can't keep this up?" Her heart stuttered, but she steadied herself. "Then we adapt. We find new ways together, I promise." As Josh met her eyes, the connection between them deepened, binding their lives through mutual struggle and commitment to change. But an unease lingered in the back of Sarah's mind. Could they truly alter their paths, or would the weight of the past crush their hopes once more? In that moment, she caught the first whiff of uncertainty creeping back in, a reminder that their journey had only just begun. The air thickened with the challenge ahead. They would need to confront the plethora of their inner demons. Yet here they were, two unlikely allies, battling fears both old and new, standing at the threshold of transformation. "Tomorrow," he finally said, emboldened. "We'll do it all again." "Yes," she assured him, thoughts racing forward. But a flicker of doubt surfaced once more. Would he still be there for the next round? Or would vulnerability send him retreating again? As they parted ways that evening, a fresh resolve mingled with a thread of anxiety coursed through her. It was there, then, that she realized this journey wasn't solely for Josh. It was about her, too, as she would have to navigate through her own insecurities. They were bound to face trials, possibly stumbles, but with every decision they made together, a new chapter unfurled before them. Little did she know, the biggest challenge lay just ahead, and it would test everything she believed about hope and resilience. The next morning arrived with the gentle insistence of dawn spilling into the room, the light casting a warm hue that beckoned Sarah to rise. The exhilarating prospect of the day ahead sent a frisson of excitement through her, but it also pushed against the remnants of doubt that clung to her thoughts. Today wasn't just another day. It was their opportunity to dive deeper into the commitments they had made. Her mind raced with strategies and affirmations as she planned their second session. What if Josh struggled again? What if his determination faded as quickly as it had flickered last night? Swallowing her own hesitations, she steeled herself to be the more resolute one. When they met, Josh's face carried a familiar blend of anticipation and apprehension. His eyes darted around the room, hunting for an escape, yet they glimmered with a tentative spark, as if he was a survivor emerging from the depths. "Ready?" Sarah asked, her voice steadier than the tumult within her. "Let's do it," he replied, a confident edge slicing through his earlier uncertainty. They began with their stretches again, but this time Sarah sensed a heightened awareness in Josh's movements. He engaged more deliberately with each pose. As he reached for the ceiling, she noticed how his fingertips stretched longer, as if he was seizing hold of something greater than just the air around him. This small change compelled her to reflect. Each stretch was an invitation to let go of yesterday's failures, a call to embrace the possible. "See, you're already improving," she encouraged, the awe slipping into her tone. "Each time we do this, you're forging a stronger connection to yourself." He smiled back, the creases in his brow beginning to lighten. Perhaps in that moment, a shared understanding blossomed. "Next, let's try mindfulness again," she suggested, her confidence blossoming in perfect sync. "This time, let's also incorporate a mantra, something that resonates with you." Josh hesitated but ultimately nodded. As they sank into their breathing exercise, Sarah focused on her own mantra, striving to remain grounded. In a whisper of thought, she questioned the whispers of doubt that flitted through her mind. Was she actually equipped to guide someone else, especially someone like Josh? As the minutes passed, she returned her attention to Josh. His expression mirrored a contemplative depth, and she realized he was swimming in personal reflections of his own. The volatility of vulnerability hung heavily between them, yet it felt strangely sacred. When they concluded, the silence lingered, richer, fuller. "This is what I want to feel every day," he admitted, eyes wide, as if peering through a window to a world he had almost forgotten. "What do you mean?" Sarah pressed, intrigued. "A sense of control," he said slowly. "It feels liberating. But why? Why haven't I done this before?" The question echoed within her. Why hadn't she recognized her own potential for growth, her capabilities to nurture others? This inquiry opened a floodgate of realizations. Their journeys intertwined, mirrored experiences of wrestling with their own prospective greatness, while addressing the shadows of unfulfilled ambitions. "Because sometimes we're afraid to confront what we might find," she replied, the weight of truth lacing each syllable. "But we're here, making strides together." As they locked eyes, an unspoken challenge ignited, a determination to dig deeper and explore uncharted territories within themselves. "Let's take it further," she proposed, a rush of adrenaline flooding her veins. What if we add creativity next, art or journaling, something to express those hidden thoughts? The prospect intrigued Josh, curiosity breaking apart any lingering obstacles. Yeah, I can do that. But what about you, Sarah? Are you going to push yourself to be creative too? Her resolve flickered momentarily. Would she dare to confront those areas of her life that felt untouched? A part of her quaked at the idea. The prospect of sharing her own vulnerabilities and discoveries felt both exhilarating and terrifying. Absolutely, she asserted, infusing her voice with authenticity. We're in this together. Though a smile graced her lips, unease lurked behind it, nudging her to confront the insecurities tethered to her own professional ambitions and aspirations, the ones she had long concealed for fear of failure. As their session drew to a close, Sarah watched the glimmer of excitement flicker across Josh's face, unaware that her courage had begun beckoning forth her own latent attachments, buried beneath years of responsibility. The dialogue had shifted. A new layer had been unearthed, one that suggested not only a future of growth for Josh, but also profound personal awakenings of her own. As they parted once again, the day stretched before her like an uncharted map, pulsing with potential. The question remained. Could she step forward, confronting the shadows of her own past, while guiding Josh through his? The challenge loomed on the horizon. A decision awaited, and it would call into action every ounce of faith she had in herself. Would the act of artistic exploration ignite change in both their lives, or would it reveal truths too daunting to face head-on? The following morning arrived with a determined urgency that thrummed in Sarah's veins. The air was electric with potential, darker clouds of self-doubt still lingering in the corners of her mind. As she prepared for her next session with Josh, the prospect of delving into creativity loomed large, both concerning and exhilarating. What hidden layers would they peel back, and would she be able to withstand whatever truths emerged? She set up the room, scattering colorful art supplies across a large table. The vibrant colors were an immediate counterpoint to the doubts that threatened to tether her. As she arranged the paints and worksheets, she could feel her heart race against a mix of anticipation and vulnerability. Josh arrived punctually, the familiar blend of eagerness and trepidation displayed on his face. "This feels different," he said, eyes darting to the spread of materials. "It is," Sarah replied, her voice steadying with intention. "Today we're unlocking your thoughts through art. It's not about skill but expression, what lies beneath the surface." "Right. Expression," he repeated, his brow knitting together. "What if my expression is just chaos?" "Then let it be chaos," she encouraged, extending her own discomfort into a shared space. The thought of chaos startled her. It was both terrifying and cathartic to confront. "We'll use it as fuel to ignite something new." As they began, she watched Josh tentatively dip his brush into crimson paint, his movements a waltz of exploration. Every stroke was laden with uncertainty, an extension of the turmoil he felt. Sarah grabbed a canvas and began to mimic him, though she hesitated. What colors reflected her own chaos? Would she summon the courage to put them to paper? Although she focused on Josh, each brushstroke resonated with her silent quest. She toyed with the idea of revealing her own hidden feelings through her art. An assault of color and emotion began to bubble within her, but each inspiration was met with an equal measure of skepticism. Unruly thoughts echoed louder. What if they were a reflection of her failure? Was she prepared to expose that vulnerability? "Sarah, are you with me?" Josh's voice cut through the haze of her spiraling thoughts. She realized she had become entranced by her own reflection of self-doubt. "Absolutely," she managed, forcing herself back into the moment. "This is about the process, not the outcome. We're discovering ourselves together." As the hour slipped by, colors merged and shapes formed before her eyes. An abstract representation of entangled emotions started to emerge. She found herself inadvertently pouring the reluctance and ambitions that had tethered her for years onto the canvas. There was liberation in each stroke. Josh, too, seemed to lose himself in a fervor of expression, his canvas blooming with swaths of colors that evoked a newfound energy. "Look at that," he said, lifting his own canvas proudly. "I didn't think I could do this." "You just did," she smiled, the warmth flooding back into her heart. The realization that they were both shedding layers filled her with purpose. However, Sarah's internal war raged on. With every artful expression Josh created, the shadows of her aspirations pushed darker against her will to shine. Was sharing her own truths with him necessary? She constantly retreated from the prospect, unsure of the vulnerability it would invite. "Let's take a moment to talk about what we're creating," Sarah said, her voice straining against the unrest building within her. "What's coming up for you?" "I feel like I'm finally getting to see myself," Josh admitted, his smile tinged with awe. "There's freedom here. I want to keep exploring it." Her breath quickened as she prepared to reveal her burgeoning thoughts. Would this be the moment she broke through her own barriers? Could she demonstrate to Josh that vulnerability didn't equate to weakness? "I think I need a canvas of my own," she murmured, half-formed thoughts swirling like fog in her mind. "To explore my own truths." He looked surprised, perhaps a bit encouraging. "Do it. We can tackle it together." As the challenge settled between them, a silent reckoning took shape. Could they face their fears side by side, exposing the shadows of their pasts to the light? The tension coiled tighter within her as she realized both of their paths hinged on this decision, to boldly confront their hidden selves. A decision lingered against her chest, each heartbeat urging her closer to the edge of vulnerability. The blank canvas promised the potential for liberation, a stark contrast to the reluctance that still clung to her spirit. Would she be willing to step into that fear, revealing the depths of herself to the very person she was guiding? As the session wrapped, Sarah felt the weight of the unspoken truth hover in the air. The decision hung like a pendulum, too unsettled to leave behind. The question thrummed softly in her mind, calling her to action. Would she finally embrace the chaos within, or let it remain uncharted? A new session awaited, but the path forward was steeped in uncertainty. The stakes had never felt higher, and the time had come to decide if she could allow the ink to flow freely, not just for Josh, but for herself. The afternoon sun streamed through the windows, bathing the studio in a warm golden hue. The vibrant chaos of art supplies still lay scattered, a stark reminder of the emotional explorations that had unfolded. But as Sarah stared at the blank canvas before her, the heavy weight of uncertainty bore down on her, suffocating her urge to create. Each minute that passed magnified her fear of exposure, gnawing at her resolve. With a deep breath, she picked up a brush and examined it, as though it were an artifact from another world. Her mind raced, conflicting thoughts darting around like errant brushstrokes. What colors represent my truth? What if it isn't beautiful? What if it exposes my failures? But would hiding behind her doubts keep her safe, or merely suppress the growth she tanto desperately craved? Unclenching her jaw, Sarah dipped the brush in bold azure, a color that symbolized clarity and calm. Drawing a line across the canvas was a test of courage. Initially shaky, the stroke became steadier as she layered more paint, yielding to the rhythm of her heartbeat. Each movement ignited a flicker of determination within her, and slowly, she felt a shift. "Sarah?" Josh's voice startled her from her focus. He was perched at the edge of his seat, watching her with an intensity that made it hard to maintain her composure. "Are you okay?" "Just working through some things," she replied, her voice an unsteady whisper, not fully aligned with her intentions. She turned back to her canvas. "How about you? What's coming up for you?" A contemplative silence settled over him as he surveyed his work. "I feel raw, exposed, but it's exhilarating. I'm kind of scared it'll fall apart, though." Sarah couldn't help but relate. She was terrified, too, not just of her canvas, but of the path they were walking together. "What is it that scares you the most?" The inquiry felt heavy, the connection lingering like an unspoken promise. "Letting people see me," he said, voice peeling away layers. "There's this fear of rejection. What if they don't like what they see? What if they see my mess and turn away?" The truth of his words resonated through her. She wrestled with the same shadow. Sharing anything personal felt like parading vulnerabilities in front of strangers. Yet, wasn't that the essence of connection? That intimate dance between chaos and clarity? An unexpected ripple of insight washed over her. She could teach Josh about vulnerability, but she could also learn from him. They were in this together, each seeking their own redemption. Her from hesitance, him from isolation. If they could both dive into the unknown, perhaps it would illuminate pathways they had yet to discover. Maybe, she suggested, revealing our mess is the path to freedom, not just for ourselves, but for each other too. What if we trust the process? Josh turned to her, a flicker of hope glinting in his eyes. You mean bring our chaos to the front? Exactly. We face it as it comes. The concept teetered on the edge of her comfort zone, and yet it felt empowering to vocalize. Was she really ready to let her own fears breathe? With a sharpened focus, Sarah turned back to her canvas. Her brush began to fly, abandoning precision for expression. Swirls of colors poured from her heart, and she immersed herself in feelings once buried deep. The paint morphed into shapes, the silhouettes of worries and aspirations mingling in a dance of liberation. Josh quietly observed, shifting in his chair as he absorbed her transformation. You're doing it. You're really doing it, he murmured in awe. Then let's do this together, she murmured, a newfound courage coursing through her. The minutes melted into a timeless realm of creativity, where both their journeys intertwined in vibrant strokes. Walls began to dissolve, and for the first time vulnerability felt less like a crutch and more like a shared strength. Yet, amid the surge of confidence, doubts still lingered. What if this liberation led to confrontation? What if revealing her chaos would unearth scars too deep to face? The curiosity of what lay beneath her layers beckoned her forward, but so too did the fear of judgment. As their session drew to a close, the canvases stood as evolving testaments to their struggles and victories, but Sarah's heart remained unsteady. She needed to know if she could finally embrace the authentic, chaotic parts of herself, or if she would retreat into the familiar shadows of doubt. The canvas whispered of buried truths, and she felt an itch at the back of her mind, urging her to confront not only her fears, but the hidden messages they carried. What's next, Sarah? Josh asked, his curiosity piqued. The question echoed like a challenge. She locked eyes with him, a shiver of realization coursing through her. It was time to face what lurked in the deepest recesses of her soul. It was time for herself to uncover her truth. Before the next brushstroke on the canvas, she had to confront her own shadows. Would she be ready for what they would reveal? The next day, as sunlight poured into the studio once again, Sarah approached her canvas with a mix of cautious anticipation and anxiety. The experience of last night lingered in her consciousness. The way colors had poured from her not just onto the canvas, but from her very core, felt empowering yet daunting. She stood before the blank surface, knowing she had more to uncover, and fought against the instinct to retreat into the familiar ease of ambiguity. Instead, she took a deep breath and considered the colors before her. What would her journey reveal today? She transferred paint from tube to palette, vibrant hues coming together like notes in a symphony. There was an undeniable urge building within her, a call to explore the depths of her being, to expose layers previously kept hidden for fear of confrontation. She picked up a smaller brush, intending to add detail, but as she traced delicate lines, a sense of heaviness settled in her stomach. What was she truly afraid of? The chaos felt manageable in theory, but deep down, she questioned whether she could face whatever truths awaited her. In that moment, the uncertainty weighed heavier than she anticipated. Sarah? Josh's voice pierced through her thoughts again, and she looked over to him, still working on his piece, an enigma of swirling colors. You seem distant. What's going on in that head of yours? I can feel this pressure, she replied, the words slipping out before she could filter them. Like I'm on the brink of discovering something important, but I'm scared of what it is. There's something powerful in fear, he replied thoughtfully. It's a sign that you're about to step out of your comfort zone. Maybe it's time for a breakthrough, you know. His encouragement resonated deep within her. He was right. Doubt often accompanied growth. The question now was whether she was willing to confront it fully. "Do you ever think about what's behind your fears?" she asked, curious about the thoughts rattling around in his mind. "Honestly, sometimes it feels like I'm afraid of being seen as less than. I'm working through proving myself worthy of my passions, of the choices I've made." His gaze connected with hers, revealing a depth she hadn't expected. Sarah considered his admission. It was a reflection of her own struggle. They were both dancers on the precipice of vulnerability, teetering between fear and the exhilarating possibilities that lay ahead. Suddenly, an idea bubbled to the surface, an urge to combine their experiences, their fears, into one creation. What if we create something together, a piece that embodies both our chaos and clarity? "Are you suggesting a collaboration?" His brow arched in intrigue. "Yes, let's merge our styles. Use the mess. Bring the unfinished into the forefront." The thought was electric, sparking a sense of camaraderie that felt refreshing. With renewed energy, they began working side by side, blending colors and techniques. They struggled and laughed, their strokes revealing bits of their personalities on the canvas. For each layer they added, they peeled back a layer of their individual insecurities. Sarah's dark tones represented self-doubt, while bright yellows blossomed around them, a nod to possibilities and light. Yet, despite the collaborative spirit, shadows clawed at the edges of her mind. Would this bold creation expose insecurities too raw to bear? As they stepped back to admire their progress, Sarah's heart raced with equal parts excitement and trepidation. The canvas seemed to pulse with energy, showcasing a chaotic beauty she hadn't anticipated. However, it also sang of the fears they faced, the exposed vulnerabilities that felt too close for comfort. "Sarah, this is incredible," Josh said, a genuine smile lighting up his face, but then his expression shifted. "But as much as I love this piece, I'm starting to wonder if we're hiding behind it instead of confronting what it represents." His words struck her deeply, and she flinched as her gaze flickered back to the canvas. Was she truly ready to face the underlying chaos? The realization hit hard. The painting wasn't merely a reflection of their collaboration. It was a window into their fears and desires. In that moment, a choice lay before her. Would she use this piece to deflect her personal confrontations, or could she allow the artistry to strip away the armor she had built around her vulnerabilities? "Maybe," she pondered aloud, "it's time to dig deeper. Let's not just create art, let's use this moment to unearth what this represents for both of us." The air between them thickened, electric with the potential for revelation. As Josh nodded in agreement, Sarah realized the journey was far from over. It lay in the looming shadows, waiting for acknowledgement. What truths would emerge from this collaboration? With her heart pounding, she felt like she was about to take a leap into the unknown. Would they emerge empowered by their revelations, or would the confrontation reveal something she wasn't ready to face? The uncertainty hung in the air, palpable and vibrant, as she dipped her brush into the colors of her newfound resolve. As the brush hesitated above the canvas, Sarah wrestled with the tumult of emotions swirling inside her. Each color represented a fragment of her truth. The dark blues whispered of isolation, while fiery reds screamed of passion unfulfilled. This canvas, vibrant yet complex, felt like a portal, an invitation to confront the parts of herself long relegated to shadows. "Let's peel back these layers," Sarah finally said, her voice tinged with newfound determination. With each stroke, she aimed to not only reveal their artistic souls, but to confront the fears that had intertwined with their creativity. Each line became a declaration, an invitation to dig deeper into the chaos they had both skirted around. Josh stepped back, observing her work with genuine curiosity. "What does the blue convey for you?" he asked, his tone encouraging yet probing. "Isolation, maybe?" she admitted, her voice barely a whisper. "It feels secure but suffocating. It's what holds me back from stepping fully into the light." His expressive eyes sparked understanding. "Then let's make that conflict visible. Embrace it." Sarah contemplated his words, igniting a flicker of courage. This wasn't about masking their insecurities. What if, instead, they invited them into the painting? She grabbed a palette knife, scraping a line through the dark blue, letting it intermingle with the vibrant yellow radiating beside it, clashing yet harmonizing. "I want to show the struggle," she declared, her heart racing, "the way fear can both bind us and, paradoxically, set us free." With renewed fervor, they began layering the colors, communicating through their strokes, each action laden with meaning. As they confronted their vulnerabilities together, Sarah felt the boundaries she'd drawn around her heart begin to dissolve. "Remember when I was hesitant to mix those techniques?" Josh touched her arm gently. "Now look at us. We're merging everything without fear." His words resonated. She truly was letting go. They immersed themselves deeper, losing track of time, each brushstroke now a cathartic release. Yet the voices within her still whispered cautions. The shadows loomed large, the fear of exposure tightened like a noose in her chest. But with every blend of color, Sarah unearthed a burgeoning acceptance. She considered the battles she had fought silently, the moments when she felt inadequate. Wasn't this painting a testament to the vulnerabilities that made them alive? The question danced provocatively in her consciousness. As they attacked the canvas with vigor, a new thought crystallized. This artwork could become a reflection of their shared journey, the downfalls and triumphs, the moments of chaos screaming for order. But this creativity wasn't just a release. It was a confrontation with truths that had been festering within her. Stepping back, Sarah examined their chaotic masterpiece that now held splashes of uncertainty, conviction, and raw emotion. But lingering behind the exhilaration was an unsettling awareness. What if facing these truths transformed not only their art, but her entire life? "Josh, I think we're doing more than just making art," she breathed out, her heart pounding. "This feels like a personal revolution." He nodded slowly, his gaze sweeping over the canvas. "And we have to be ready for what that revolution might unfold." The tension brewed within her as uncertainty mingled with longing. Would they witness the blooming of hope? Or would this journey shatter the very fabric of what she believed she could endure? As they continued working, Sarah felt a sharp swell of determination. She wanted to capture not only their fears, but also the resilience forged from those very struggles. "It's like we're untangling ourselves here," she said finally, her voice hushed. The realization struck her hard. The journey they had embarked upon was twofold, artistic and deeply personal. She could feel the shadows at bay for now, their invasive whispers faded by the cacophony of color around her. But the pressing question clawed at her heart. Would this artwork act as an empowering revelation or expose the cracks still splintering through her identity? The tension built as they added the final strokes, leaving Sarah to wonder if they were truly ready to embrace what lay ahead. What awaited them on the other side of this creative awakening, and could they manage the truths it would uncover? As she dipped her brush once more, uncertainty and resolve igniting in equal measures, she understood they were on the brink of reckoning. And in the depths of her being, she sensed that this was only the beginning. How far could they push their revelations before the canvas could no longer contain them? The quiet serenity of the studio offered a moment of stillness, a stark contrast to the tumult of emotions surging within Sarah. The canvas stood before her as a declaration, a testament to her courage and introspection. With each brushstroke, she had woven together their fears and aspirations into a singular narrative, a shared act of bravery that not only represented their struggles, but also the resilience they had fostered along the way. Today marked a pivotal moment in their journey. The essence of their collaboration became a visceral exploration of self. Each chaotic splash of paint echoed a truth long kept obscured. For Sarah, facing her shadows unleashed a torrent of emotions: fear, excitement, and anticipation. As she stepped back to observe the evolving masterpiece, she felt an undeniable shift within her. "Are we ready to show it?" Josh asked, a hint of trepidation lacing his voice. His gaze lingered on the canvas that encapsulated their journey, the chaos just as present as the newfound clarity. "Ready or not, I think this reveals everything we've faced together," she replied, her pulse quickening. The weight of vulnerability settled within her, heavy yet exhilarating. As they observed their creation, it served as a mirror reflecting the parts of themselves they had been reluctant to confront. The chaotic bursts of red, representing their fears, intertwined seamlessly with vibrant yellows and blues symbolizing hope and freedom. It was an unfolding narrative, an exploration that defied confinement, much like their own lives. "Let's present it. Let people see our truth," Sarah declared, feeling a burgeoning confidence wash over her. It was more than just a piece of art. It encapsulated their shared experiences, the connection forged in the fires of vulnerability, and the promise of transformation. Together, they organized a small unveiling for the art they created, an intimate gathering to share their journey with a few trusted friends. As guests arrived, Sarah felt a flutter of nerves. Would they see the beauty in their chaos, or would judgment cloud the room? With Josh by her side, she felt anchored in their shared determination. When the cloth covering their creation was pulled away, gasps echoed in the room, revealing the striking amalgamation of color and emotion. "It's stunning," one friend exclaimed, stepping closer to analyze the vibrant colors, the chaotic beauty that danced across the canvas. "Tell us about it," another urged, their eyes widening with curiosity. As Sarah began to recount the collaborative journey, explaining how each shade represented a piece of their reality, she felt the walls she once clung to start to crumble. Each earnest observation from her friends only fueled her confidence. "Your vulnerability shines through," one said, pointing at a section of deep blue mixed with gold. "It speaks of pain, but also of hope. And it's liberating," Josh added, his voice steadying her as she shared more. "We carried these burdens and transformed them into something that defies our fears." Sarah realized that in sharing their creation, they were not merely presenting art, they were unveiling their own truths. The fear of exposure melted away with each affirmation, revealing an exhilarating sensation of freedom. For the first time, her identity wasn't tied to the shadows of doubt. It emerged through colors. It flourished alongside vulnerability. As the evening unfolded, conversations flowed, illuminating the complexity of their experiences. People connected to the emotions portrayed, drawing parallels to their struggles and triumphs. In those moments, Sarah witnessed the impact their journey had on others, how honesty could ripple outward to inspire collective courage. "Well, what's next for both of you?" someone inquired as the gathering began to dwindle, leaving Sarah and Josh standing side by side, a cohesive unit forging ahead. "Together, we keep exploring," Sarah responded, her heart swelling with direction. This was just the beginning. We redefine ourselves beyond these walls, transform our experiences into an ongoing dialogue of growth. "Yes," Josh echoed, his demeanor resolute. "Art has become a tool for understanding, not only our struggles but also how to navigate the new paths we chart together." With the echoes of shared vulnerability resonating in her heart, Sarah understood that this moment of revelation marked a concrete shift in her journey. No longer confined by fear or comparison, she was stepping into her own competence, embracing her role as both an artist and an individual fueled by resilience. In the days that followed, Sarah flourished in newfound opportunities. She started to organize small workshops focusing on creative expression as a means of self-discovery, merging her passion for art with her drive to help others navigate their own chaos. Each session became an extension of her journey, a community growing from the seeds of genuine connection she had sown. Her workshop flourished, filled with participants eager to explore their own narratives. Every brushstroke painted on canvas became a celebration of self-acceptance and reclaiming individual truths. Sarah felt a surge of fulfillment, having transformed her initial fears into empowering victories that resonated well beyond the walls of the studio. Her mother's health improved significantly, thanks to the holistic practices Sarah had begun to advocate. Each visit to the doctor now signified a step towards healing, filled with hope rather than dread. Sarah had achieved the personal growth she once sought. She became not just an advocate for her mother, but a beacon of hope for others in her workshops, demonstrating how vulnerability could usher in transformations life-altering in nature. Strength and clarity rooted in her journey offered palpable confidence that emerged in professional accolades as well. Local art fairs invited her to showcase the work that had blossomed from their collaboration, recognizing the intricate dance between pain and triumph in her pieces. As Sarah looked toward the horizon, emboldened by her triumphs and newly established identity, she felt a profound sense of purpose settle within her. She was no longer a maid or a daughter burdened by circumstance. She was an empowered artist, an advocate for change, and a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. This was the life she had longed for, one firmly rooted in achievement forged from personal evolution. The tapestry of her reality had finally woven itself into a masterpiece, vibrant and full of promise. And so, she stepped forward, confidently defining her place in the world, unshackled by fear and embracing her role as an architect of change. Now, dear viewer, remember this powerful journey of transformation and resilience. If you felt inspired, you need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support for more exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep this incredible journey thriving. Comment your reactions and theories about this inspiring conclusion. Your voice matters. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this and witness the power of personal growth. Don't wait even one more second to share.